Hello, my name is Alex Hassel, and my topic is Trump tariffs and crisis communication, and I will talk about the 10 connections that it has with crisis communications. A little backstory to this is that on February 4th, the US implemented a 10% tariff on all Chinese imports under the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. Things escalated quickly after. On April 2nd, the tariffs were raised to 54%, then 104% on April 9th, and currently it is at 145%. China responded to this with tariffs of their own, and up to 125% of U.S. goods were added. This has a big impact on things such as consumer goods, businesses, and the aerospace industry. This has caused geopolitical tension, and the tariff war has strained U.S.-China relations. China cautions other nations against aligning with U.S. trade policies at its expense. The first connection is crisis faming. President Donald Trump called for sweeping tariffs on Chinese imports, claiming unfair practices, intellectual property theft, and economic aggression. The key concept is that crisis framing is crucial in shaping public perception. The analysis is that Trump framed the tariffs as essential to protect American sovereignty and economy, aligning the move with patriotic and security narratives. The takeaway from this is that effective framing can influence public opinion and shift focus from economic consequences to national pride. The second connection is stakeholder communication. The tariffs disrupted global supply chains and raised prices for U.S. manufacturers, tech companies, and consumers. The key concept is that timely, inclusive stakeholder communication builds trust. The analysis is that key stakeholders such as business leaders, trade partners, and labor groups were largely excluded from early discussions, causing confusion and backlash. The takeaway from this is that inclusive communication can ease uncertainty and build support for contentious policies. The third connection is message consistency. Trump and his allies cited multiple reasons for the tariffs: economic security, job protection, and punishment for COVID-19 related grievances. The key concept is that consistent messaging reinforces credibility. The analysis is that inconsistent rationale fueled skepticism among the public, media, and financial markets. The takeaway from this is that clear, stable messaging helps maintain trust and policy legitimacy. The fourth connection is two-way symmetrical communication. Trade policy announcements were largely top-down, without meaningful consultation or adaptation based on domestic and international input. The key concept is that two-way communication fosters mutual understanding. The analysis is that China responded with counter-tariffs, and U.S. companies scrambled to adjust without input into policy decisions. The takeaway from this is that feedback mechanisms are vital for responsive and less disruptive policy rollouts. The fifth connection is image restoration theory. Trump used the tariff issue to revitalize his political image ahead of the 2026 midterms, portraying strength against China. The key concept is that image restoration theory focuses on repairing or reinforcing public reputation during crisis. The analysis is that he cast himself as a defender of American values, business, and jobs, attempting to shift attention from prior controversies. The takeaway from this is that crises can be rebranded as leadership moments when tied to value-driven narratives. The sixth connection is apologia strategies. Trump deflected blame for economic strain by accusing China of exploitation and betrayal. The key concept is that apologia strategies are rhetorical defenses for controversial decisions. The analysis is that his denial and justification tactics worked to solidify support among his base but deepened international tensions. The takeaway from this is that defensive communication may protect a brand short-term, but can harm diplomacy and collaboration. The seventh connection is pre-crisis planning. Businesses, especially in tech and retail, were unprepared for sudden import taxes and supply chain disruptions. The key concept is that pre-crisis planning ensures resilience. The analysis is that without clear mitigation strategies or subsidies, industries faced immediate cost hikes and delays. The takeaway from this is that anticipating effects and building economic buffers are essential to minimize harm. The eighth connection is crisis as opportunity. Trump used the tariff decision as a rallying point to reinvigorate his base and contrast himself with the Biden administration's previous approach. The key concept is that crises can be leveraged for political or organizational gain. The analysis is that the narrative of American independence from China created momentum for campaign messaging. The takeaway from this is that skillful leaders can turn controversial moves into unifying strategies for their constituents. The ninth connection is media relations. Trump announced the tariffs via Truth Social and campaign rallies before formal diplomatic channels. The key concept is that media management is essential to maintain narrative control. The analysis is that unfiltered social media announcements led to confusion and market reactions before policies were formally detailed. The takeaway from this is that while direct channels can energize supporters, structured media relations ensure clarity and stability. The 10th connection is timing and urgency. The new tariffs were implemented with minimal notice, catching businesses and trade partners off guard. The key concept is that strategic timing impacts crisis effectiveness. The analysis is that rapid deployment amplified logistical chaos and reduced preparedness across industries. The takeaway from this is that urgency must be balanced with coordinated execution and communication to avoid unnecessary disruption. These are my 10 connections from the Trump tariff. Thank you for watching.